Why, hello, all you people.
Who can guess what's new? Who can guess what's new? Post it in the chat. Post it in the chat if you can already see what's new and what we've been working on nonstop for the last 3 or 4 days. Post it in the chat right now. What do you see in the room that's new? Roya, I just taught something new to the guy from Yellow Pages a little bit ago. Well, that's not what's new. I love the wall. Yay, it's the wall. It's a good kind of wall, not a political type of wall that a lot of people are not fond of, but it is the alpha wall. And not only is it a wall, it is a chalkboard wall, which means we can do live sessions and demonstrations, and I can write on it for you guys. So more awesome stuff coming soon. The wolf is actually metallic. I spray painted the wall with metallic chrome paint. Let us know if we kind of cut out. It looks like our video might be kind of buffering. So if we end up cutting out, let us know. If we lose internet, anything crazy like that. Internet's been kind of wonky. So chalkboard, that wall is awesome. It looks awesome.
That net neutrality repeal kicking in?
No, I don't think so. Not yet.
No, we got about another 55 days for that.
Oh, guys. All right. So big news for anybody who's just joining us. Pre-stream usually lasts about 10 minutes. Ooh. We're having an earthquake. Pre-stream lasts 10 minutes. Right at noon, we will open up the actual video and get into the meat and potatoes of this whole thing. But first of all, big news. I don't know how you could have missed it because I've sent it out a million times, but just to make sure, down below, Renee Christine, yes, the Renee Christine, and I are hosting a huge masterclass on March 10th. March 10th? Yeah, March 10th. Down below is the registration for that, but there may be a cap on it. I'm not sure. Usually she kind of has to cap off those free webinars simply because too many people sign up and it slows the whole webinar down. And any besties down in the comments, tell people, tell the alphas how crazy Renee Christine webinars get, because we've crashed, I think, 5 different webinar hosting sites.
Yep.
Because too many people. So now she has to kind of segment them out.
Got to get them business class G Suites, yo.
I know. Well, that's expensive. So to sign up for that, registration down below. It should be the 9 steps to building a profitable handmade business. It's totally free. You'll get email reminders. All that good stuff is down there. Awesome sauce webinars. Yes.
Chris Hardwick, host from Talking Dead Live, announced he's on Vero.
Yeah, we got to do our Vero research still. We're working on it. It's been a busy last few days. I know that some of you guys are thinking, that, whoa, what is this new app? It is so sketchy. All of this news that's come out about it. Here's the thing. The person we've heard that the person who actually published that article is known for kind of exaggerating stories for the sake of media. Who would have thought? So
and I don't really see the big deal with somebody being associated with Russia owning something.
Well, there was a couple shady allegations.
I mean, what can he do with it, really?
Right. So I don't think it's so much that your personal information is at jeopardy. I think it's more that it's whether you want to support somebody who's associated with Russia and doesn't pay his workers.
Oh, no, human beings from a different place on Earth.
All right. Well, here's the thing. We'll get to the bottom of whatever this is. Things are crazy, but either way, we'll figure it out. He's going to do some research on it. You guys know he's ex-military, and when it comes to snoping out bad people, he's real good at that. So we'll just leave it at that. All right. Second, big announcement, something that you guys have been waiting for nonstop. Down below, also in the description, if you have scouted that out, there's lots of Easter eggs down there. It's like hidden goodies galore. Our PO box or
POL box.
PO box is finally open. You guys can send us fan mail. And in the long run, what we're hoping to do with our fan mail, products that you guys want featured on our channel, we're going to do fan mail unboxing videos like we promised. And we want to feature your products back here somewhere. Some of the products we're going to keep. Some of the products we are going to pull together and do giant alpha giveaways where we give away big boxes of products that have been submitted to us.
And some stuff we're just going to keep because we like it.
Yeah, well, so... And, I was also thinking that some of the products, we'll put them on the wall for a while and then we'll throw them into the giveaway box. So the PO box is down below. You guys are free to send us whatever. Just make sure that if you send us anything edible, it cannot be homemade. It needs to be in original packaging, especially if you're shipping international. And our alphas that are outside of the United States, please do not send us liquid because
if you do send liquid for any reason whatsoever, like soaps, or something like that, and you're outside of the United States, please package it in a way that it's not going to get everywhere. If for some reason the change in pressure makes the container erupt or whatever, just make sure it's packaged in a way it's not going to make a mess when we open it if you do send liquids.
Right, because I mean, just a pressure change can make that thing bust open. Right. And if you do it, like, put it in 10 Ziploc bags, please.
Right.
We don't.
And we want them, if you want them featured on the channel in any way, make sure they're family appropriate. You don't have to send family appropriate items, but if it's something that we can't put on here, we're not going to.
Right. So if you want
something that's goofy and not family appropriate, you want to send to us, we'll check it out, but we're not going to put it on the wall or on the channel.
Right.
For the sake of keeping this channel like family friendly.
Right. Like bad word items and things like that. Right. We won't be able to feature. All right, guys, it's 11:55, and little do you all know that Anthony's actually been here the whole time, chilling out, just waiting for us to unmute him. So we're going to go ahead and let him say hi for a minute. We're not starting questions yet. We're just saying hi. So go ahead, unmute, and you can click on his screen to bring him up. Say hello.
Hey, everyone. It's great to be here. I hear there's a big crowd, so sorry if I get a bit nervous, but I'm super excited.
It's only 168
very
people.
great hosts, and reassured me they're going to make sure everything runs smoothly. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, come on, go ahead. It's only 170 people. It's not that many. No, I'm kidding. This is, one thing that I noticed about Anthony right away is that he, I guess when I first started talking to him, I couldn't find his face anywhere. So we've streamed this is our third time face-to-face on camera. So I think that this might be the first time, other than people who are in the EtsyRank group, this might be the first time that people are actually seeing you. So that's pretty awesome for anybody who hasn't, gotten to say hello to you yet. Hi, everybody. Everyone's saying hello, Anthony. Gemma says hello, Anthony. Sonora K Creation says hello. Megan says hello. Thank you. Don't be nervous. We all love you. Janet says hello, Anthony. So everyone is super duper excited. All right, let's see here. Are you drinking all my water? Don't drink all my water. So starting off, guys, what we're going to do is right at noon, we're going to go ahead and kind of do a quick introduction. A lot of you don't know what EtsyRank is, so we're kind of going to go into Anthony's background, what EtsyRank is, some of the new algorithm changes. I know that everyone's really stressed out about that. So we're going to break down exactly what Etsy is doing. And then we will go ahead and get into questions because we want to make sure that everyone's on the same page before we jump into those questions. Otherwise, some of you might be confused. And as always, if we get repeat questions, we will be skipping over them. If it feels like your question was submitted like 5 or 6 times and we never answered it, watch the replay. I promise we're not going to purposely skip anyone. And we'll probably, Anthony, do you have a time frame that you need to be off here? Is there, because we usually end these around 1 o'clock, I think?
1:30, yeah.
Yeah. So is there a time frame that you need to be off?
Oh, look, when you run out of questions and
you asked for it. You asked for it because they will go crazy. Well, we usually get off at 1:30 because our daughter gets off the bus at 2. So we've got a little while, but as long as everyone's, the big questions get answered, then we should be good. Okay. All right. Perfect. So it is 11:58. How's everybody doing? Everyone, let's see. Anne says happy Friday from Indiana. Hi, Anthony. Hi from New Jersey. Let's see. Oh, Anthony, you can't see the chat. That's cool. All right, perfect. Chris Foreman, what are the most significant differences between EtsyRank and Marmalade? We will get into questions in just a minute, Chris. So if you want to copy your comment and repaste it so we don't lose it once we start at noon. Hi, everyone from Texas. UK says hi. We have people from all around the world joining us today. Super duper awesome. And Anthony, where are you from? Where are you currently streaming from?
So I'm streaming from a very chilly and snowy Toronto this morning. So,
we've been seeing pictures of all that.
Yeah, it's not too bad. We were enjoying that nice little warm spell for about 3 or 4 days, which was great.
Us too.
Yeah.
Oh, you did too? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's I believe here today it's 46 out right now. It'll probably climb to mid 50s, but for Ohio, that's pretty great for this time of year. So pretty exciting. Oh, Sen says, hi from freezing Germany. Burr. Oh, we have a couple people from Canada. All right, so let's go ahead and we will break into quick introduction. First of all, Anthony, thank you for hanging out with us today. You're like our first guest other than Renee Christine, and most of the alphas already know Renee Christine. So it's really exciting to actually have you here hanging out with us. Why don't you tell the alphas a little bit about your background and what makes you kind of qualified to give all of this awesome Etsy information?
Okay. Well, first of all, I'm not an Etsy employee, never worked there. So I make sure people understand that, not affiliated. But my background is fairly unique, I guess, when I talk to other people that are experts here, in that I've worked for the Microsoft search engine for over a dozen years. So I've had the luxury of being able to hang out with some really smart engineers and talk about relevancy testing, how to spot spam and get rid of it, all these wonderful things that go on inside a search engine. So I think I was very blessed with that. And I think that what really got me into Etsy was my wife, with her struggles with her store. She was let go from a big Canadian bank, and she was like, oh, what do I do now? I said, well, do anything, be creative. And so she dabbled with eBay and found that a horribly impersonal, terrible sort of experience, and then started to get into Etsy because it just seemed like a better fit. She was making these handmade, beautiful jewelry items, and they were beautiful, but no one would ever see them. And she struggled with that for the longest time. It was really, really heartbreaking. And in the end, I'm looking at it and going, well, I have a bit of search knowledge. I do know how algorithms work or the concepts work, and maybe they're different from Bing and from Google and from Etsy, but there are still some underlying principles that are very much the same. And I thought, okay, I'll try and make a few tools for you just to see what's going on. And I discovered the Etsy API and read the seller's handbook over and over and over again, and started to go, okay, well, I'll tinker here. And lo and behold, I realized she was making a bunch of spelling mistakes, and she's got awesome spelling, by the way. It's much better than mine. Missing tags, and when you've got 100 listings or more, it's easily done, right? And all these things, and then she fixed them up, and she started to get results, and it was like, oh, this is very cool. This is actually working. And I thought, oh, why don't I just give it to everyone? I'd been at Microsoft for years. I felt like I was just taking. I thought it's time to give back something, and so I thought, okay, I'll release EtsyRank, and that's really where it began.
Well, that's the one thing that really stood out to me is that you've got this really, really great website that, ultimately, other than a few pro tools, you pretty much offer this for free. And for anyone who isn't aware, the website is EtsyRank.com. It's linked down in the description, but I forgot to make it a live link. So you can actually copy and paste it if you want to grab that, if you've never used it. But I was just surprised that you had all of these features for free, and that your want to do this, to give this to people, is just really astounding to me. So what's your wife's shop, just so we can kind of give her a little shout out if people want to run? I don't think I've ever looked at it before.
She sworn me to secrecy, but you know what? I'll go and ask her again and see whether she's comfortable doing that. I think she may be watching somewhere in stealth in the YouTube channel, but if she is, she can feel free to do that. Otherwise, I have to respect her privacy.
Okay. Well, we completely understand that. So, all right. We have a lot of new people here. There are a lot of people who are selling for the first time. They haven't even opened their shops yet. They're still kind of putting things together. What advice, like, first and foremost, do you have for that new seller, the seller who just opened their shop, and those sellers who really don't even know what SEO is, or they don't have that grip on it? Like, what advice would you give to them?
I've got a few tips. If I can share my screen here, I'll
Sure, of course.
Do exactly that.
Let's see.
Okay, can you see that?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, so I think that the I've got 8 points here. You know, they're all good in certain ways, but you know, the first thing I'd say is, you know, be wary when you hear rumors and speculation. You know, if some fly-by-night person popped up and says they know the secret to Etsy success, you know, treat it with care. You know, I see a lot of people, you know, they hear some crazy rumors and speculation, and then they go and act on that information without, you know, verifying the sources. So do that. It's just common sense, you know. So, you know, if it comes from Etsy, you can trust it. If it comes from Google, you can trust that. But remember, not all the rules apply. You know, if it comes from me, I hope you can trust me. I like to think I'm honest. You know, but I also do a lot of research. I have, you know, hundreds of gigabytes worth of data. So, you know, I can mine some of that and do research like that. You know, there are experts out there. Starla, I know you've analyzed stuff, I'm sure, to the face. You know, they're the sort of people, you know, you can trust and listen to. That, you know, make sure they've done their homework. And, you know, if they can cite a source from Etsy or Google, then that just helps as well. So, you know, just be careful with what you hear and you know, take it easy. The next thing is just make small changes. Whenever you hear, you know, a great idea or, you know, the next best thing and, you know, AI does this and that, make a small change. You know, find a listing that isn't doing too well, tweak it based on what you think you understand now, and, you know, avoid having that all-nighter where you change every listing on your shop. You know, that to me is a very knee-jerk reaction. You know, really what you've got to do is make those small measured changes and then validate it with, you know, by looking at your Etsy stats every few days, because that is really the best source of information for you to let you know if you're doing the right thing. I think that's the key things I like to get out front or up front straight away. Then, you know, it gets into some of the nuts and bolts of the SEO tactics that we have here, and all of these here are, you can find them in the Etsy Seller Handbook, and I've got some links at the end if people are interested in those. I can share those. But firstly, use all your tags. I mean, it's seriously the easiest of things to fix. You know, if you've got 3 tags, 5 tags, 11 tags, whatever it is, use all 13. It's just a missed opportunity. And, you know, just from when looking at my wife's shop from the very, very early days on, this was the thing that stood out. You know, she just went in there. She was beautiful at creating these amazing things, but didn't know SEO. No one here is born an SEO expert. So she put a few tags in that thought worked, and that was it. So use them all. That really helps. It's a great opportunity to get exposure to more people.
And one thing that the alphas have always told me is that they run out of tag ideas, but what I always tell them is, don't just think of a million ways to describe. Like if you sell a mug, it doesn't need to be 100 ways to describe a mug. You can ultimately go in there and switch it to, you know, gifts for blah, blah, blah. If you can't think of 1,000 ways to describe that mug, it doesn't need to be a tag that describes the product. It could be an abstract tag that applies to it.
It's a great idea. I think that it may be a little harder now with the way that the CSR algorithms are working, and I can talk about that a little bit. But they do recommend that in the Seller Handbook. There's a great article on brainstorming keywords and titles and descriptions, and they talk about things like not just what the item is, but who is it for. So yeah, completely agree with that. I think it's a great idea. What else we got here? So another thing that Etsy say is, you know, use the words at the beginning of let me rephrase it. Words at the beginning of your titles, they send the strongest signal to Etsy. They've said that in multiple places in the Seller Handbook, so I treat that as a pretty clear indication. Get your best words at the beginning.
And what do you consider the beginning to be? How many characters? Like, what's the cutoff area?
They don't, at least I haven't seen anywhere in the handbook that says, you know, you have to have 45 characters or 50 characters. But they did give a subtle hint, which makes sense when you think about it. And that is that think about how many words you see in your title when you're searching in grid view. When you think about it, you've got about 45, 50 characters, I think, depending on how many narrow characters and wide characters you've got in there. So you really want to have those best keywords visible when people are searching and seeing the results in a grid view. You know, they are the first words that they will see after your image has hooked them in and they're curious. So, you know, support the image, make them enticing to draw a click. I see some tools out there that allow you to bulk edit and prefix all your listings with things like 20% off today and things like that. And to be honest, I don't know whether that's a smart strategy or not. But I just think from a long-term SEO perspective, I can't remember the last time I searched for something like that. So I'd be suggesting look for something that people are searching for when they're about to buy something. That to me is what I would always lean towards. And keep in mind, I haven't heard this directly from Etsy, but it makes logical sense to me that you try and get inside the mind of the buyer when they're about to purchase. So, if you're just starting out, it's mum's birthday next week or something like that, you go, okay, what am I going to get her? I might search for gift for mum. That's horribly generic, right? It could be anything. Etsy's going, what the hell do you mean?
Right.
So as you go through that research and discovery phase, you start to get a little bit more knowledgeable about what you'd like, and your searches will change from that broad sort of gift for mum stuff to silver necklace, for argument's sake. And then you look at them and you compare them, and you're really in this comparison sort of stage. You're looking, oh, that looks cute, that looks beautiful. I like the price of that one. And then by the end, you really know what you're looking for in that final stage. It's like 18-inch silver necklace with opal pendant or something like that. Now that to me is a beautiful long tail keyword, and that's the sort of thing I'd be wanting to try and get into my title. You've still got all the good words in there like silver necklace, gift for mum, and Etsy will match on those. But think about what those most valuable words are and get them towards the beginning of your titles.
Right. Perfect.
Cool. And the next thing is emphasizing what the best words are. So if you think about it like this, a search engine Etsy will be looking at your listing and going, okay, I've got about 50 words here. Maybe 10 or 15 in the title and say 30 at most in the tags. But which ones are the most important ones? They're going to go, well, maybe at the beginning of the title looks pretty good, but I'm not 100% sure. My suggestion is, and this is again in the seller handbook, emphasize your best words by putting them in your title and tags as well. And I don't mean try and copy all your tags into your title and create a stupidly ridiculous looking title. But, if it's 18-inch silver necklace, try and get those into one or two tags just to give your listing that little extra emphasis so that when Etsy sees someone searching for a silver necklace or an 18-inch silver necklace, they go, this listing has got a really, it's sending me some really strong signals there. So, these are the things from a keyword perspective that are going to help disambiguate or make it very clear what your listing is to Etsy, and they can keep that in the back of their mind when they're ready to show those sort of listings to potential buyers.
Right. And would you say that this whole SEO thing, it's not just knowing SEO, it's an overall mindset that you kind of have to have at all times, thinking, well, every single area, every single text field that I have available is a place that I could potentially, sway the search results and, leave that impression on Etsy where they're saying, okay, well, this is exactly what this item is, and they're going to show it to all the right people.
Yep.
So.
The other thing, and I don't really, I don't have it in here, but again, they call it out in the seller handbook. Use the entire title. Use 3 words in your tags if you can. And I'll give links at the end, and I can follow up with that sort of information. But it's there; they've laid it out for us. So do that. It's going to help. The more words you put in there, the more combinations of searches you could appear for. So keep that in mind as well. Be wary that you don't start throwing in irrelevant words, because that's not going to do you any favors. People are going to look at it and just go, not for me. So keep that in mind. I know it's a lot to jumble, a lot to process, but I hope it's making sense to folks there.
There is one thing that the alphas always ask, and they say, for example, in my listings, I'll put skeleton key necklace and key to my heart necklace in my title. But a lot of people say, well, why would you use the word necklace twice? Or why would you put skeleton key necklace on all of your listings? Doesn't that make your listings compete with each other? And that's always been a really obscure term to me, compete with each other. Do you have any opinions on that, or, you know, why that?
You know, it's I feel like the landscape has changed recently with how Etsy are handling clumping here. So before, when they were very aggressive about declumping, I would say that's very true. You know, you need to have a bit more variation with your titles and tags. And they do still say that in the seller's handbook, but I think I've seen enough overwhelming evidence from various posts in the forums and in the Facebook group and people that reach out to me that clumping is back. So I think that it probably isn't as bad as it used to be. I also think that, you know, you have to, you know, call a spade or call a necklace a necklace. So, you know, I don't know what any other synonyms are out there for necklace. I think that it's perfectly fine to emphasize that a couple of times.
Right.
I don't know, I hope that answered the question. It's an interesting.
Yeah, I hear that one a lot. Bless Your Heart Studio asks, should we fill the title with relevant keywords or just use 3 or so?
Oh my goodness.
Woo.
We have fire alarm test here. Please bear with me.
Oh no. Technical difficulties, everyone.
Just close for a minute.
Oh, is it gone? Is it over?
It's moving to other rooms, I think so. And my wife's just found some pillows.
That's okay. Everyone is completely understanding of that.
Okay, I think we're good. So,
okay.
What were you saying, Stella? Got a little.
Okay, that question was from Bless Your Heart Studio.
Yep.
She asked, should we fill the title with relevant keywords or just 3 or so keywords?
Oh my! You know, I feel like every time I read the advice from Etsy and they say fill it with relevant keywords, I think, okay, yep, makes total sense to me. And then I'll go and see a shop that's got 4 words in their title, 1-word tags, and probably phenomenal sales that, you know, just throw that theory up in the air. When I don't have enough data to say with any high confidence one way or the other is better, but I'll say this. To me, logic would dictate that if you have more words in there, your listing is going to appear in more combinations of searches than if you had fewer words. So if you're a bit like me and you like statistics and you know, increasing your chances of, you know, a probable sale, I would go with more and get a full title in there with relevant keywords that describe your listing that are likely to match what people are searching for. That's what I would do.
Because those shops that you are mentioning with the like 4-word titles and all that kind of stuff, who knows what kind of outside factors they have going on with social media, advertising.
Right. They could have phenomenal marketing, you know, so you never know.
I don't know the full story there. And the other thing is that they may have been around for a long time, you know, like since day one on Etsy, when their rules were, you know, very immature at that stage. And, you know, you got to think about it, when people figure out the secret, that spreads very quickly and it's no longer a secret. And what then happens is you get people that are after a quick buck. They will go in and start tweaking their listings and abusing, you know, the secret. And then, you know, it's no longer a secret. Everyone's using it. And I think that, you know, and it's probably an interesting exercise to dig deeper here, but I would suspect that a lot of those shops are now really struggling. You know, I hear about old shops that were doing really well 2 or 3 years ago, and in the last year or so have really started to tank.
Right.
I have seen some that fit that, like I described, short titles, 1-word tags, but I haven't done any deep analysis to say one way or another is right. So if you hear something from me and you think, oh yeah, that's it, I'm going to go and do what Anthony says, like I said at the beginning, just try it on a small, insignificant listing that's not doing too well, and let me know. I'm always curious to hear about feedback and how things work out for you.
Right. And, you know, with SEO, it's like, no matter how much you know about SEO, nobody has the algorithm. There is no, that's what a lot of people don't understand, is no one has the answer. There's no black and white answer that's going to tell you exactly how you're going to get on page 1 of Etsy. Right. Speaking of which, do you want to go ahead and let everybody know what is going on with this algorithm change? That way we can get into questions, since they're starting to pile up. Just let them know exactly what the heck did Etsy do, and why is EtsyRank suddenly saying that their listing is on page 1, and then they search it and then it's not in the keyword tool.
Yeah, okay, I'll do 2 things. I'm going to share my screen again, because I've got a couple of slides here. One's a little bit wordy and the other one's really wordy, so bear with me. I'll try and describe it as simply as I can. And
yeah, that's perfectly fine, because I'm sure that there are a lot of people taking notes right now.
So I'll start with, can you see me? See my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. So, you know, the first thing you've got to ask is, why did they change their algorithms? You know, and I'm talking about Etsy and Google here, because, you know, we all hear about, you know, Etsy's algorithms changing. We hear about Google and, you know, their Panda changes and all the cute names they give for all their changes. And, you know, you got to ask, why is this? And it's really this, that, you know, like I was just saying, people figure out how to make money from search engines. So they're you know, that's why we're all here, right? But some of those people, they exercise what's called black hat SEO, which are little sketchy, dodgy techniques that allow them to abuse the system in order to sell their goods and services. And so Etsy, Google, Bing, they have to be on their toes all the time, looking out for people that are trying to get around these algorithms that they create. So, you know, if I gave you a quick lesson in search engine history, when I started playing with search engines, it was about 1995, and they were really just matching on the keywords. It was a dumb match. You know, you type in the words, we'll give you back 5,000 documents that contain those words. There was no emphasis at all. And they improved the algorithms over time. They allowed people to pay to get to page 1. But then, you know, Google came to the front with their PageRank algorithms, and they had a better way of showing what was more relevant. So you can sort of see what's going on here. You know, they create a search engine, people find faults in it, people start to abuse it, then they create new techniques to get around those people that abuse it and fake it. And on Etsy, I'm sure we've seen people, you know, try all different sort of techniques to game the system, you know, one-word titles or tags and things like that, or they get in there and play games on Etsy and favorite each other's items and view each other's items. And
oh, wait, that doesn't work?
You know, it may have early on, but, you know, as these techniques become more widespread and get discovered, if it is artificially raising a listing, and, you know, think about it from Etsy's perspective here. You've got 100 listings that are relevant to a user, apparently, or at least have the keywords. What are they going to do next? Are they going to show you a listing that has 1 sale and 50,000 favorites?
Right.
Or are they going to show you a listing that's got, you know, it averages 10 sales every 100 views? The stronger signal there, obviously, is the one that's got the higher conversion rate. So anything that starts to artificially promote listings, I'd steer clear of it. You know, I know, because I worked personally with teams in Microsoft, and their job was to catch these games and shenanigans that were employed by these people. And I'm sure that Etsy have got similar people trying to figure out how to get around, or try and identify these people are trying to get around their algorithms. So, you know, that's a quick history there. You know, they need to change because it gets abused. Every one of us can go in there and go, why is this listing here? Every day I see something and I just go, that's completely irrelevant. It could be innocent. It could be just because someone just renewed a listing or sold that listing. Or it could be something more sinister. So that's why they've got to keep changing their algorithms. So with that said, to talk about the changes, And again, I don't know the fine details of how Etsy do this, but I'm quite familiar with contextual search, and machine learning algorithms and AI, so I can speak with some expertise there. But you know, the CSR, or the contextual specific search ranking, as Etsy like to call it, it's a technique that's been used by Google and Bing and Yahoo for many years now to improve the relevancy of their results. And you know, Etsy are realizing that they've got to look at more than just the words that someone types in, and more than just the words that appear on a listing. There are other little implicit signals that we can get from, or Etsy can get from, a buyer. And implicit signals is a bit of a buzzword. I don't like using it, but really it's things like, you know, purchase history, buyer click patterns, location of the buyer. You know, they may even get to stages like Google where they look at time of day. I don't know that Etsy are doing that yet, but that could be another reason. They may even eventually look at the device that you're searching from. These are all things that help a search engine figure out what really is a good listing to show. And what they do, and I think what we've seen initially, is they've released this and we've all gone, oh, what is this rubbish? This doesn't seem right to me. But keep in mind, they have machine learning that's going on in the background here. And I saw that in one of the releases where they talk about that. And I wanted to call that out because what this is it's like some fancy computers and nerds that have programmed it to look at all these little signals that are coming in from the buyers and to learn from it. So the promise of machine learning is that it will get smarter over time. So as more people search for 18-inch silver necklace and, you know, click on my listing, they will start to go, we're getting some pretty good signals from a potential buyer here. And if they buy that listing after that search, then that's a beautiful signal. And if 2 weeks later or 3 weeks later they leave a 5-star review, guess what? These are all beautiful signals to get back. And the thing I like about it is it's going to make the experience for buyers much better. And that's going to be good for our sellers because it means they're going to come back more often, they're going to buy more often. We've just got to figure out how the hell to deal with the you know, fluctuating sales that so many of us have experienced since then. So, you know, there's a lot of good reasons for changing these algorithms and personalizing the results. The thing that I really like about it is these are, when I talk about some of the signals like purchase history, locations and so forth, these are a lot harder for people to fake. And that's a good thing, I think, for the Etsy marketplace to do. So.
Right. And, you know, for those of you who are having trouble kind of grasping this whole concept, imagine, you know, think about how on Facebook, if you recently, or we'll use Google as an example, I guess. If you've searched something on Google, have you ever noticed how you just kind of tend to get an ad for that product on Facebook? Or, for example, you know, how some search engines will favor, you know, certain links based on what you've searched in the past. So, for example, maybe because I search for a lot of dragon themed items on Etsy, it's more likely that I'm going to start seeing dragon themed items on Etsy, if that makes sense. So it kind of helps if you know your target market. It's going to help you a lot because you're more likely to be seen by your target market. It's just kind of like what Anthony was saying, tools like the keyword tool in EtsyRank, you know, is showing you on page 1, but you might not be on page 1 for that result when you look it up, right?
Yep, that's so true. And, you know, it's like an impossible problem to solve because you're a seller, you're going to, you know, EtsyRank into the rank checker or any other similar tool. You type in your keywords and you perform a search. There's no user information that's passed through at that stage. So, and how would you choose which user as well? There's 30 million users to pick from. You know, it's personalized, and it's not just personalized to individuals. It also looks at people like you. So if there are people in your town, then they may be starting to favor those local results. I know that Google do that. They could be looking at people with computers like you, or screen resolutions. I mean, I hear a lot of people now going into incognito because it was a technique they were using before, but incognito doesn't hide your location. It doesn't hide the browser that you're using. It just hides your cookies. So they still know your location. They still know you're using Chrome or Firefox. They still know you're in, whatever screen resolution. There are all these fingerprints that those advertising companies, Starla, that you were talking about there, they use the exact same technique. So it would make sense for Etsy to look at every possible signal that they've got about this person and go, okay, so we know. And what's the example they've got in their, I think their Q3 report? It's a laundry basket, I think. And they're starting to look at people that search for laundry basket. And if you're familiar with it, there are two screenshots, a before and after. And the first one is a whole bunch of stickers, which, those listings have laundry basket in there somewhere, being nicely optimized. In the second one, you can see where the machine learning and the AI have started to kick in, and it's realized that people, when they search for laundry basket, they're not looking for stickers, they're actually looking for laundry baskets. So it's starting to get smart already. They're starting to put more of those laundry baskets in there. So that's not necessarily personalized directly to you because you've had a history of that, but they've noticed that people who search for that are more likely to be going for the physical laundry basket rather than a sticker. So the algorithms are working in ways that are very hard to predict at the moment because this is all new to us. We're used to keywords. We're barely wrapping our heads around keywords. But there are all these other factors there that are in play now. The rank checker is still good for validating your keyword. So if you type in a keyword and you find your listing in the rank checker and it's in the first couple of pages of results, that's okay. Don't panic. At least Etsy is matching you on those keywords. But for whatever reason, they may not be matching you when you're searching or when you go in incognito and search. But treat it as, yes, you're doing well with your keyword research, but get into your stats. That's really where you have to be now. You have to get right into your shop manager and look at your stats and go, right, I made this change on the 5th of the month. It's now 10 days later, and oh yeah, this looks better than the same period last month or something. Use your stats to validate and give you a little bit more confidence there.
And this isn't just EtsyRank, right? This is all tools that do this that are affected, because it's not your tool that's malfunctioning. It's Etsy, changing, right? This is all tools.
Yeah, there's no one here that's changing the results. We show the results exactly as we get them from the Etsy API, and Etsy are not deliberately withholding information from us. It's just a technical impossibility to single out a person or a group at this point in time.
Right. And that was one of the biggest struggles that a lot of people said that they were having, is they said, oh, EtsyRank doesn't work anymore. The keyword tool doesn't work anymore. And I think that that's one of the main things that people are concerned about right now, is they think that the EtsyRank is just flawed and it's not working, when in reality, there's no way for EtsyRank to predict the buyer patterns and the search histories of, all of its users. That's why all Etsy-based tools right now are kind of, not as effective as they were before this big algorithm change.
And another thing that I was worried about, people were going to think that SEO didn't matter anymore because of this kind of thing, when obviously it still does matter. It's just other factors are affecting it now.
Right. So what do you recommend now, like with SEO? What should they be doing? Should they be changing, or?
In many respects, it's business as usual. Really focus on finding good keywords. Try and empathize with the potential buyer and think about what they would be searching for. And think about, like I said earlier, what would they be searching for just as they're about to buy something? Right at the end of that journey where they've gone from research to I'm ready to buy it. Try and anticipate what they were searching for there. It's going to be long and very specific. Still do that. That's important. The thing to remember is that at a very fundamental level, if you don't have the right keywords in there, and Etsy cannot match what was searched in your listing is not going to show. So you still keywords are still at the heart. I would be, looking at other things as well, like making sure you're in the right category, that you've filled out all your attributes, because I see signs that Etsy is going to go a little bit more Amazon-like, where you have all your filters down one side and you can start to narrow down your listings. So fill them in. And guess what? When people are getting close to buying as well, they're narrowing down. They're using those filters. So don't think, doesn't matter. Use them. They talk about it in the seller handbook. Definitely get in there and use them. These are still things that we can still influence. So go ahead and do that. And the other thing is that don't do, and that's what I said earlier, don't try and artificially inflate your numbers. If you're into playing games and stuff like that, be very, very careful with that. That really worries me nowadays. It kills your conversion rates, and that can't be a good thing.
Yeah, and Etsy sees that 1 million people are looking at this item and no one's buying it. Etsy's thinking, wow, this item must be crap. No, everyone's looking at it. Nobody wants this thing, so we're not going to show it to anyone, Yep. So we have about a gazillion questions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and start with Kelly Matthews. Yep. And we'll anybody who asked a question before Kelly Matthews, if it feels like we're skipping over you, just resubmit your question and we'll do our best to kind of get back to it because we've just had so many. So Kelly Matthews asked, you were just saying that clumping is back. Can you explain in more detail what clumping is?
Yeah. So when you perform a search, typically previously you would get a nice variety of shops and listings, and that's nice. Variety is good. You get a lot of ideas and so forth. Now what a lot of people are reporting, and I've seen this, my wife has seen this, you can have cases where 4 or 5 listings or more from one shop can be seen on page 1. I personally think it's a terrible experience. It lacks variety, and from a fairness perspective, doesn't give other shops a fair go. But that's what clumping is.
Okay. And Moon Lovers Jewelry said, if I use beaded bracelet, would searchers of beaded bracelet still find the item because bead is part of the word beaded, or do I use both in titles and tags to capture buyers who search either way? So I think what she's asking is, are plurals, do you know if plurals are affecting this new algorithm, or should they try to stay, straightforward and use a little bit of variation to appeal? Because I know Google accounts for plurals, but do you know if Etsy?
Yeah. So, I could have sworn I saw something from Etsy on this last year, but I haven't been able to find it of late. But I'll talk about a general concept that search engines use, and you touched on it there with the plurals. They call it stemming. And the process basically means it takes a long word and chops off to the root stem. So location, locators, locating, locate, they all go back to a word like local or something like that. Beads, beading, beaded, all go back to bead. Now, what this means for you is that on a typical normal functioning search engine, you will be considered in the result set, even if you don't have quite the right spelling there. It's considered the same root word. So that's how search engines generally work. As I said, I don't specifically know how Etsy work, but I'm seeing patterns that indicate that they do something similar there. So that's as much as I can tell you there. I hope that explains the concept and what they do there.
Right. And Etsy's getting smarter. I mean, obviously, Etsy's getting smarter. These algorithms are changing. And if they're trying to compete with any of the bigger search engines and they're integrating some of those qualities that the bigger search engines have, it's a pretty good indicator that if not now, then, soon they'll begin, keeping those things into consideration, like plurals. And so Catherine McMullen asked, does copying the title and pasting it first in your description help, or should you start right in with the actual description? And I do that. Like, I'm guilty of copying and pasting my title right in the top. So
yeah, that's a great question. From a Etsy perspective, I don't think there's any direct negative effect there, but I think there is some indirect influence here. My recommendation is that first sentence of your description should always be a beautiful, human-friendly, well-worded sentence. And I'll give you a couple of reasons why. First of all, if you just copy and paste the title, put it in the first thing in your description, people have already seen that. If you then copy and paste all your tags and put them in your description as well, people have already seen that, and they probably don't particularly care about your tags, right? So now they've got a whole bunch of text that they're not really interested in, and then you've got all the good stuff. What happens with people and human nature? We're busy, we're time poor, we don't have a lot of time. We're just seeing a whole bunch of rubbish and stuff we've already seen, we skim over it, and we lose interest in whatever's further down. So really, I would strongly encourage you to get your description into good shape. Let it start to help sell your product. Don't repeat stuff that they've already seen. Don't put a dump of keywords in there. Get it, you know, these are humans that are looking at this. These are humans that are buying. They're not bots that are buying. So make it enticing to the human. You know, you've done the good work already. You've used good tags. You've got a decent price. You've got great pictures. They've got so far. And then they just start seeing stuff like that. You know, if they're indecisive at this point, they might just, you know, go away. You don't want to do that. You've still got their attention. Make good use of it. And then from a Google perspective, maybe copying and pasting the tag won't be seen as a terrible thing, but if you were to put your copying your title in there won't be seen as a terrible thing. But if you were to copy your tags in there, that just looks like keyword stuffing. So
right, Google doesn't like that at all.
No, they've been very clear about that many times. So don't do that. You know, just because, you know, there's a listing audit feature in EtsyRank that will give you maybe an extra point. It'll bump you up from a C to a B because you put those keywords in there. Okay, that's fine. You win points with EtsyRank, but you don't win points with Google. You know, be smart about it. I mean, I know we're all busy. We've got to try and create this stuff, and SEO is just. But you know, take a little bit of time here, maybe a few minutes, even, you know, just to try and win that person over. I mean, it's like getting the person to walk up to your shop, look in the window, open the door, and then, you know, I don't know, smells like dog or something like that, and they just go, "Ugh, I'm out of here." You don't want them to do that with your Etsy listing, right? So entice them all the way until they're exhausted. And while on that topic, again, I've seen this a lot too. People like to put in some pretty harsh return policies and things like that in there. And you know what, as a buyer, if I look at it and I go, oh, I've got 3 days to ship this back to the buyer, or a ridiculously small amount of time, or, you know, there are all these other terms and conditions that seem really harsh. I understand as a seller why you've got to be harsh, but as a buyer, they look at that, I run for the hills at that point. You know, to me, it's like, I don't want to deal with this person. This person freaks me out. I'm out of here. So again, you know, get your first sentence beautifully worded, you know, follow it up with things about the item that maybe you can't get from the picture, dimensions, weight, you know, it makes you look good, restores hair, whatever it does, whatever is great, get that in there. And then maybe at the end, if you've got to put your, you know, tough policies or whatever, do that, but don't lead with that sort of stuff. And you know, don't just copy and paste. It's not going to help.
Right. And I mean, you can also be gentle with that execution, you know, rather than in all caps putting no returns ever. You know, you could say, unfortunately, due to the nature of our products, we cannot accept returns. And rather than, you know, putting up that big red flag and leading with that negativity, you know, you can do so artfully and not scare that buyer into thinking that you're just a big meanie. Yep. Megan Nichols asked, oh, I can answer this one. Does naming your photos with your keywords help? Not on Etsy, because with Etsy, you can go into your shop right now, save one of your own Etsy photos, and you'll see the new name that Etsy gives your photos. They do that for a reason. They rename your photos some gibberish. So if you are actually naming, you know, your product or your photo sterling silver necklace.jpg, it's just going to get renamed. Don't waste your time unless you're doing it like on your own website, and then things are a little bit different. So let's see. Teresa asked, do tags have to be in the same order as the title?
I don't know.
I do. I do just for the heck of it, but
you know, again, I vaguely recall something in the seller handbook about it, not that it doesn't matter. But recently I was challenged by someone who really knows the SEO, and they said, and they were saying, I think it matters. So I thought, okay, well, I'll go back to the seller handbook and the help pages and try and find it. I couldn't find it anywhere. So, you know, I don't like to spread conspiracy theories or something, but I haven't been able to find anything that says it helps or it doesn't help. So, you know,
might as well.
If I see something from Etsy, I'm on the fence there.
Right. So, and then let's see, Rules Apparel. Did I get that right? Did I butcher that? I probably
I'm just as bad with names.
I see shops with great SEO, but zero shop policies, about info, etc. Does filling out all of that information make a difference?
Do it. Yeah, do it. Don't skip. I mean, again, Etsy have been very clear about that. So, you know, just do it. It's I don't know, what, an hour of your time or something like that, and it's applied across your whole shop. If Etsy say do it, just do it.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a service to your buyers, because those people are buying a handmade item to connect with you as that artisan. Otherwise, they would be shopping at Walmart, you know? So the more that you can put yourself into your shop, show them your face, show them your personality, show them your brand image, your brand personality, you know, all of those things. I even talk about smile psychology a lot, and putting your face in as many little places as you can. All of those things can win that person over, because ultimately, if they're in your about section reading about you and they want to know, you know, who you are, it's not because they care about your life story. They're looking for a reason to either love you or to hate you. And that is going to serve as that validation of whether they're going to agree with you as a person and the moral values that you're trying to sell in your shop. So if you're in there just kind of blabbing about, oh, my whole life, you know, I played football and blah, 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 and I have 2 dogs, but you sell hair bows, that doesn't validate the product, and it's not going to really leave that positive impression. So,
well, not to mention, even if it doesn't affect SEO for whatever reason, I mean, especially with the shop policies, like,
why waste it?
Right. Well, I mean, and that's a kind of a way to cover your butt too. Like if you sell soap or jewelry, like things about allergies, things about returns, I mean, that kind of stuff's all just going to cover you in the end anyway.
Right.
And you know, I think you're already saying this, but it's about perceptions, and you want to really give the buyer a good perception about your store, your professional nature. You want to be thorough and complete. You don't want to be seen as someone that takes shortcuts, is a little bit sloppy, because that may reflect on your, or they may perceive that as reflecting on the quality of your workmanship, and turn them off. And yeah, do it.
Right.
Yeah.
And Stephanie Powell asked, I think that this is going back to EtsyRank. She asked, what all counts against your listing grade on EtsyRank? What are the factors that will determine that listing grade?
Okay, that's a great question. I have a slide here, which I'll flash up.
Okay, perfect.
You're
Bear with me. Okay.
Perfect.
All right. So just to be clear about the grades, think of it as, are there areas of opportunity? Are there things I could be doing on top of what I've already done so far? So this listing here scored an A. And you're probably looking at it and going, why is that? So I'll go through it. So earlier I mentioned about titles and getting your most powerful keywords into the beginning of the title. So that's one thing that, you know, we need to form the habit of doing. Now, when it comes to emphasizing the most important keywords in your listing, and I talked about duplicating some of those words in your tags, if you have done that, so you've got, say, some keywords here, or a tag here that's also near the beginning of your title, you've got a green little tick here. So you can only fit so many in there, right? So you don't need to be striving to get all greens across here, but try to get your most important tags with a green tick. To me, that's one of the first things to do. This is a really significant thing that really plays to the guidance that Etsy has given us. Oh, sorry, I was highlighting the wrong column there. So if you've got those tags in the title, that's great. That's good emphasis. if you've got that tag near the beginning of the title, that's even stronger emphasis. So, you've got it near the beginning of the title, you've got it duplicated in your tags, that's win-win. So if you get a handful of those, say 3 or 4, you're very likely to get a B or an A grade. Now, when I talk about descriptions in here, let's keep in mind that it doesn't have a direct influence on Etsy SEO. It really has more of an impact on Google SEO. So, getting your tags into the description, it's very easy, as some people have done. They've copied and pasted them in there. That's okay. You'll tick the box here, but you're just tricking a dumb algorithm. You're not convincing humans as well. So get the words in there. There's no real space limitations that you've got to worry about with the description. It's much more generous than a title. So get those words in there, but stitch it into a nice sentence. So if you actually, now that I think about this may have been a B grade, but that's what you need to do. Get those keywords, get your title right, get those strong words at the beginning of your title. Then as you go to figure out your tags, figure out what you want to emphasize or double emphasize. So find out the best ones, get them in there. That'll turn a lot of these green. And I hear a lot of people, they're like struggling to get from a B to an A. That really is just 9 times out of 10, that's when people just haven't put those words into their description as well. And they should all be relevant, so you should be able to craft them into a nice human-friendly sentence there.
And if anybody has trouble writing descriptions, I know that was one of the things that I had a lot of trouble with starting out. I always recommend buying the book Words That Sell. It's a great book. It's not like a reading book. It's a reference book with words and phrases that you can use to create detailed descriptions. And it's like a dictionary that you should always have open on your desk when you're writing those descriptions. That way you can find more descriptive words and ways to sell that product. It's called Words That Sell. You can get a used copy on Amazon for like $5. But that's a really great book to have to highlight, to use over and over again. So and then let's see. Oh, how could someone having an issue logging into their account get a hold of you? Because Morgan has posted a couple times that she's having an issue getting into her account, and I don't want her to think we're ignoring her.
Send me an email, anthony@etsyrank.com.
Okay.
Or stalk me on my Facebook group, but an email's better. And my phone buzzes every time I get an email, so I'll see you there, and I try and help anyone that's got logging in issues as quickly as possible.
Yeah, you're extremely responsive. She said that she sent you an email, but she might have had the wrong email address. So just make sure that you're actually, typing that incorrect. All right. So Dainty Panda asked, I've heard of a technique some people use of copying listings, but adding a new set of keywords to get more exposure. Is that considered gaming the system as well? Well, when you're copying a listing, you're not taking the history of that listing away. When you copy it, you're literally just making a copy that's being perceived as a new listing, correct?
That's how I read it. I think it's just a tool to help you be a little bit more efficient.
Right.
I haven't heard anything from Etsy specifically about.
Yeah, I would highly doubt that the metadata goes along with it.
Right. Let's see. And then someone says, how does this all affect a new seller? I don't have a selling history yet.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. So Etsy have stated that new sellers have a neutral quality score. I've tried to find out a little bit more about that, but they're very vague about it. So what I'm suspecting is that you're not being punished for being a new seller, but you're not being thrown up at the top straight away. And there are good reasons for that. I think that Etsy has a responsibility to buyers, and that needs to make sure that these new sellers can be trusted. It's a little harsh, but I think it's fair in the long run. They do. I think Josh, the CEO, was mentioning that they are giving new sellers and new listings a little boost. I don't know how long that is for, but it looks like it's true. So I think you're getting a little bit of love, but not as much as you'd like, or an established shop that's got a good 5-star review or 5-star score over a couple of years. So hang in there. It will get better. Starla, I cannot hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Mr. Moore decided to answer a phone call and ran away, and then I muted my mic while he ran up the steps, and I forgot to unmute it. So, yay, it's live. Anyway, that kind of, for those new sellers, what you really need to be doing is focusing on that external marketing to get people direct to your Etsy shop, not relying so much on that organic traffic. And then in time, once you start getting those sales and reviews and the things that Etsy likes to see, those are the things that are going to rank you higher in the long run and help contribute to your shop's actual rank on Etsy. And, you know, that's why I tell people don't focus so much on just getting that organic traffic. You know, really focus on your funnel, getting people into your funnel, a mailing list, Facebook groups, Facebook communities, just, you know, where you're spending your money, throwing $5 at an ad, you know, on social media, things like that are really going to contribute in the long run to your success on Etsy because you're building that momentum. So, and I think that that's something that a lot of people, you know, just they want Etsy to do it all for them, but it's not. What I always tell people is that if you had a restaurant in the middle of the woods, would you blame your landlord for not sending you customers? No, you would want to put out, you know, flyers and a big billboard pointing into the woods, you know, telling people that, you know, my restaurant is this way, eat here. You don't call up your landlord and blame them for not sending you traffic. So
yeah, no, that's beautifully put. And, you know, just to throw in a bit there, work on getting a good marketing mix. You know, you touched on the social media and so forth. Keep in mind, and this is especially true for new shops, but older shops will tell you the same thing as well. SEO can be a real slow burn sometimes. You know, you get a view a day on a listing or something like that. So, you know, be careful. It should not be your only tactic for attracting users. You know, just because you may have seen something from Etsy that says quit your day job, you know, don't expect them. Don't rely entirely on them. You know, get your social media happening. You know, if you've got merchandise that you'd like to ship out, I think to what you were talking about earlier there, Starla, you know, get it out to people that are ready to promote it and review it, and hopefully mention it to their fans. I think that's a great tactic as well. And, you know, paid listings. Personally, I'm a big fan of paid listings. I think that it can be like a floodgate if you know how to manage listings correctly. Yep. Try and diversify your tactics for attracting people into your shop.
right. And Cindy says, let's see. I heard on Marmalade that it was good to leave out dashes and commas in your title. Is this a good idea or not? And I personally, I think I use forward slashes in my shop to break up those keywords. So is there any benefits or disadvantages to using commas, slashes, dashes?
No. Well, I'll geek out on you a little bit here. I've worked on some natural language processing software and algorithms in the past, and I can tell you now that punctuation really helps to break up and understand a sentence. So if you were to look at, I mean, you can go and Google this, and you can look at embarrassing street signs with bad punctuation. You can quite literally find a whole bunch of signs that absolutely sound the most ridiculous. I wish I'd known that question in advance, because I would have brought a few and put them into my I would say that's very risky. Unless that's come directly from Etsy, I would treat that very carefully. By all means, experiment and let me know if it works for you. But that, to me, just knowing how those algorithms work, I would think that you run the risk of words bleeding together and suddenly changing the meaning of a sentence quite dramatically.
Right. And then Megan Nichols, I can't read today. She asks, and I think we both kind of know the answer to this, can the algorithm really read the photos, and does having the plain background help that more?
Google Muffin Dog. No, it can do an okay job, but I yet to see algorithms that are perfect. I definitely wouldn't rely on algorithms to distinguish the picture, and I would be making sure that you use your words and your human judgment to describe your pictures and your items very well. And I say muffin dog because there's a couple of images on Google where pictures of muffins and chihuahuas were put together in a collage, and they tried to get the bots to detect the dog, and they picked a few muffins, I can tell you.
Someone literally sent that to me this morning. So,
well, I mean, when I was in the military, we did some stuff with like the metadata that's attached to pictures, or just depending on what device, whether it was taken with a camera or a cell phone. Obviously, there's metadata in the background of those pictures, but I mean, I would highly. I mean, Facebook's just now implementing some good facial recognition software, so Etsy's going to be pretty far behind on that end, I think.
Yeah, I've seen the Bing Labs guys. They're getting really good at image recognition. You can upload pictures of people, and it can tell you how they're feeling. They can actually get to the point, tell you the sentiment of the person. They're sad, they're happy. I have fun with all sorts of politicians and uploading them and trying to get it to interpret what they're thinking.
Right.
It's definitely not perfect. And the other thing to keep in mind is what's in the background of the image. Your brain will figure out very quickly and easily what the focal point is, but this technology may also include things that are in the background. So, bicycles, chairs, guitars, whatever it is in the background. Just be wary that may be in there. I don't think. Go.
Oh, and what I always talk about, because I always recommend using that light or white background, whether it be gray, ashwood, a really light teal, just light. And that's not necessarily because I'm not teaching you guys that to trick, Etsy's search algorithms. I'm telling you that because it's basic human psychology. Our eyes are drawn to what's simple, what's clean, and what is less straining on the eye. So when you're making your product the focal point of that photo without that distracting, bright, crazy background, you're appealing to human psychology. It's not about Etsy's algorithm. It's about appealing to, general human nature and how humans perceive those photos. And I mean, you can look up the rule of thirds on Google and, read into that a little bit more when staging those photos for your marketing and things like that. It all plays into a bigger picture, not just SEO. SEO is just one slice of cake out of this big, huge cake. So
your product should be the focus. Like, there's nothing wrong with having, one of the pictures in the gallery being, let's say you make pillows. Your pillow is on a couch in a log cabin, nice, pretty background, but that obviously shouldn't be the main picture that you're using to show off your product. You want your product to be the focal point of the actual setup.
Right. And it looks like Jillian Clemens asked, I will say that now you can make your shop say 1-day ship. It will increase your sales because, you're in this Amazon environment now. People want it fast.
If they're willing to pay for that shipping, good God.
I kind of, here's the thing about that I feel, my personal opinion about, putting that on there. If I want a product badly enough, I don't really mind the wait. And that's kind of the difference between Etsy and we'll even say Handmade at Amazon, is that people kind of know what to expect of Etsy. And when it comes to like the free shipping, the next day shipping, things like that, I don't think that that's really going to alter unless you have a very close competitor who's offering nearly the same product. Right. And but that shouldn't be the determining factor whether someone should buy. Your determining factor, don't compete in pricing, don't compete in shipping, compete in the overall quality of your shop, your products, your branding, because ultimately that branding, not just the visible branding, but the invisible branding in your shop is what is going to determine your rank in that marketplace. And we're not just talking about where you're positioned, SEO wise. We're talking about actually gaining that status of being that alpha brand, or people are turning to you as the #1 shop in blank industry. There's no other sellers that do what I do right now that have the reputation that I have. In fact, the one that we actually unintentionally ran out of business because we had all of those aspects of a positive brand. So, when it comes to the 1-day shipping and all of that, if someone wants your product badly enough, unless it's a time sensitive item or holiday time, I don't think that it affects people that much.
Right. And that's one of the 1-day shipping. I mean, you're making a pretty hefty commitment with something like that. Like, if somebody places an order Friday night at 11:50 in the evening and you had plans for Saturday, well, now you're going to have to pack up that order and get it out. Or somebody like us, where we live in an area, sometimes it snows so much that there's no way we're going to get to the post office, and now we're screwed because we're stuck to a commitment on 1-day shipping. And it's not like you're ordering like a car part that you need like tomorrow because you got a road trip or something like that.
You're buying soap, you know.
Like if you're the kind of person that's buying, you know, the Valentine's Day present the day before Valentine's Day, you've already got a problem. So
yeah, I mean, do you have any opinions on that, Anthony? I know we went on a tangent there.
Sorry.
It's an interesting one. I can only talk from what I've observed with the feedback that my wife gets, and she'll get one person a week maybe asking about that, and you know, I'd say it's probably 1 or 2% of inquiries where people will just say, I need this by Friday, and you know, they're ordering, you know, Wednesday or Thursday. It's a very small percentage, so I wouldn't turn yourself inside out, and especially, you know, if what you're making takes time, you know, that's it. You know, people should be understanding that Etsy is, you know, about handmade. Okay, I know there's a lot of resellers there now too, but I would certainly hope that they get
it. He's losing his mind over here because one of the comments, I don't know if you saw it, says, Keepers at Homestead said, what do you mean the right keywords? Anyone selling a necklace is going to call it a necklace, not a chain for decorating a neck.
No, I'm going to start calling it for that for now on.
I love your chain for decorating a neck. Oh man,
we need to put up a listing with that
chain for decorating a neck. How about we'll test that theory for you?
Yeah.
Keepers at Homestead. Yeah, I would not do that.
I mean, if you got the memers out there would buy that, but
right. Ken Katz asked, how can you have long tail keywords when you're limited to 20 spots in your tags? That is not good for long tail keywords.
Yeah. Hey Ken, I recognize that name. Yeah, you're going to struggle a little bit there, and I'd say you need to split those long tail keywords into 2 tags.
Right, and that's what I do.
You just put them in order. Like if you have a 3-word tag, you just take the last word and make it the next thing. I mean, just do what makes sense.
Right, and
I think I mentioned it earlier about the word combinations. If you've got that long tail keyword, you put it in your title if you like. You put it in the tags. Etsy's going to look at all the words in there, and it's going to assemble them, reassemble them, jumble them around, and find all those combinations. So I still think it's worthwhile splitting. I don't see any harm in that.
Right.
Like for instance, chain for decorating a neck. You do chain for decorating a neck.
I think that, yeah, chain for decorating and then a neck, you know, that way you can split it up when you're selling your chains for decorating a neck.
I'm going to start a shop where that's all I sell.
Chains for decorating necks.
Neck decorations.
Amy Profit asked, late coming into chat. That's okay. If this hasn't been asked yet, for the free service, do you get just 3 keyword lookups per week or per month? I think, is that Marmalade that you're thinking of? What?
Yeah, I don't know about those guys, but you can use you can use the keyword tool as many times as you like.
Yeah, I've never seen.
Yeah,
I've never seen you limit.
Confusing the tools between the two.
Yeah, I've never seen you limit the amount of times that someone can.
It's unlimited use, but you know, please don't abuse it either. You know, we've all got to use it.
Right. Let's see. Nana's Gone Loopy Craft and Crochet Arts. Woo, that was a mouthful. In terms of SEO, just before they buy, should we niche down to adding colors of things? So I think she means like, I don't know if she means adding colors of products to her shop or if she means adding those colors into the keywords. I know adding colors into the keywords, obviously, you know, would help a bit for people searching for that specific color, you know, of that product. So
I think there's a couple of things that come to mind. I hope this answers the question, but I know that in some of the attributes now, you have the option to pick a color. It's usually fairly general. It's probably blue or red or something like that. I would suggest picking that, but then either in your title or in your tags, get into the more specific color. So aquamarine or any other sort of subtle variation that looks like that. I put those into the tags or descriptions.
Right.
Tags,
and then
title, sorry.
Oh, you're fine. And then let's see. Montour Wire, I hope I pronounced that right, said, it's been said the description should be written at a grade school level. Is this correct? Like
descriptions?
Like your descriptions, like dumbing them down to like a grade school level and making them like really simple.
I mean, for the sake of translation, I would say maybe.
I don't know.
I don't know. I would probably err on the simpler side. Just because there may be people that are watching that or looking at the listing that are not native English speakers. So,
right.
I think you can convey it in nice, simple words. Obviously, if it's a technical product or there are some specifications, you probably want to get specific there. But I think it may slightly help. Don't have any data to prove. I mean,
there's more illiterate people in the world than there are literate. So.
That is true. That's very true. Just hop on Facebook, and I'm sure that everyone can agree with that. But I also wouldn't just put it like, this is a necklace. This is a silver necklace. This necklace is so many.
Saying it wrong.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be. Do you have K1 in the US? Do you have K1, like kindergarten, year 1 type? You probably want to get a little bit higher than that.
Yeah.
Chain for neck.
Chain for necks. And then Sandra McDonald asked, does renewing a listing really help us, or does Etsy's algorithms actually look to see if there was a sale that resulted in the renewal?
That's a brilliant question, and I suspect that it has changed lately. I ran some tests last year and various times throughout the year, and I was seeing clearly listings jumping up to the top of page 1 after a renewal. But, and there's a big but here, they don't stay there for very long, especially if it's a new listing or if it's a keyword that you're not very relevant for. So treat it carefully. You can burn a lot of 20 cents that way. But last time I checked, you were getting a little bump. But my wife's tried that, and I think that tactic is becoming less effective by the day. I think more and more people are using it, and I think that possibly Etsy have maybe softened the recency favoring in the ranking a little bit. And that reminds me, I have another SEO expert that has asked me to run some tests, so I'll run those. She's given me some great keywords, so I'll run that test over the weekend and share the results back with you. That's an excellent question.
Yeah, that would be awesome. And, one thing that I tell a lot of people is that, for me, it's easier because all I sell are skeleton key necklaces. That's literally all that's in my shop. You won't find anything else there. And I put it in all of my listings. It's in my, all over my storefront itself. It's even in my about section. So when I have this listing that usually sells every single day, that is usually on page 1, and I renew that listing, if it, say it hasn't sold in 3 days and it drops, I can usually renew and get that listing back to page 1. But you also have to consider that listing has hundreds of sales. That listing is kind of standing as the #1 item in my shop that Etsy is recognizing for those keywords. So I think that it kind of just depends, because like he said, if you're trying to rank for, baby girl hair bow, but you traditionally make diaper covers and you just have one hair bow that you're really trying to keep on page 1, you might be able to get it there. But do you really want to pay that 20 cents a day to renew constantly just to keep that one listing there? So usually what I recommend is that if you have a bestseller that's selling a lot and for some reason you go through a dry spell where that listing falls, that should be the listing that you choose to renew, and monitor it, watch it, because it can fall in a matter of hours. For my listing personally, the one that sells almost every day, I can usually keep it in position 1 for, several weeks. And then if those sales drop on it, if I go 3 or 4 days without it selling, it will drop back down. But then I renew it and it floats back up. So I think it really just depends. It depends on the new algorithm changes where Etsy's going to put it. For me personally, though, and checking both in an incognito window and things like that, trying on multiple computers, multiple desktops, I can usually get it close to position 1, page 1. But like I said, I've got momentum behind that listing. So I think that that kind of contributes too. So
yeah.
let's see. And then do renewals still help after you update tags and titles to get the bots to check you out sooner? So basically she wants to know if the bots are kind of scoping you out sooner.
Okay, so there's 2 parts to that one. First of all, when you change your titles and descriptions and tags, I ran some experiments on that, and so did a couple of other SEO experts that I chat to, and Etsy seemed to be picking them up almost immediately. Now there is another problem that you need to be wary of, though. You may have nailed a certain category where you're number 1, you kick butt, but if you change your keywords, remember that it's like a new listing for that term if you've not used it before. So you may get back to a neutral score for that term. So just be careful when you change your tags around. You may suddenly see a drop in views because of that. When it comes to renewing, same deal. You will be bumped straight back up for a brief period of time. And again, I'm going to validate this over the weekend to make sure it's still true. But that's what I was seeing up until recently. So, theoretically it would work. You could change the tags, get a bit of exposure. I like what you said a few minutes ago, Starla, about your best listings, your best sellers, the ones with the highest conversion rates. I think if you were to look at which listings to renew, I'd want to back those ones as having the best chance of staying on page 1 the longest. I think that's a smart choice when it comes to picking which one to renew.
Right. And that's because Etsy's favoring those listings. Etsy's getting a portion of that sale. They're going to promote the items that they know are selling or that have high reviews, the items that are more likely to generate more sales, because that means more money for them. They're a business too. They have to make money too. So, and then let's see, Megan Nicole's asked, does changing your banner and photos in your about section help show Etsy that you're active? I've heard that a lot, that like changing, tweaking your actual shop itself shows Etsy that like you're active and that you're an active seller because you're changing that frequently. Have you heard anything about that, or is that kind of just
speculation? Nothing from Etsy.
Yeah, that's what I've heard too. So, I mean, I'm sure it doesn't hurt. Always polish those things when you can, but if you don't need to change them, don't change them. Yeah. Janet said, I post fictional stories created about the product. My gems are in the fantasy realm. Is this a good idea or a bad idea? And for example, she did like a collection launch that had this whole story behind the marketing and things. And she created all these really great graphics, and she writes the descriptions to go along like in this neat little story. So I mean, as long as you're using keywords and you're describing what that product is, yeah. If it's appealing to your target market, I guess that, because I mean, I've seen big shops that do that, big, not Etsy shops, but actual, websites that do that, where they tell like a little story. But it just depends. You have to consider the organic market too. If someone's clicking on your shop for the first time, they click on that listing having never experienced your marketing before, and they see that there's a story.
Yeah, just make sure it's not cringy. I think that would be the big thing. Just make sure that it's not cringy to read through.
Right, and lengthy.
Yeah, don't make it too lengthy.
The other bit I'd say is make sure that it's clear and obvious what you're selling up front. But I like it. I think it's a very interesting tactic. It sounds like it appeals to the human side a lot. But for that sort of stuff, I'd let your shop stats tell the story. Maybe create a similar listing with maybe a more contemporary sort of description, and see how that goes. Do a bit of an A/B test and see whether it works or not. I don't know. It sounds very interesting. To me, I think it would be something that I would personally find appealing and interesting. But yeah, that's just the opinion of one.
Yeah, and it stands out. It's going to be, if someone's reading 100 listings, trying to go shopping, picking this product, and they notice that this seller took the time to write this really neat little mythical story that gets them in that.
Shows that they care about their product.
Right. Yeah, attaching the message behind the product, so.
It's a perception thing. And if it's getting the views, then hopefully, your conversion rates are pretty good.
Right. And then let's see. Moon Lovers Jewelry asked, what time frame does the bestsellers report cover under seller reports? Will you be adding a full conversion rate report, maybe all-time items or all items and for all time?
Okay, that's a great question. And, you know, I've been playing around with that report. It's very cool and a little bit buried in EtsyRank, but what it does is at the moment it only analyzes your active listings. But I like what you're asking there about all-time listings. So I'm going to take that away and see what I can do. Were there any other parts to that question?
No, I think that was it. Let's see.
Keys for next.
Keys for next. Let's see. Is this a question?
I think this jumped down. I think you need to scroll back up.
I know. That's why
I hate. Keep going. You still got a while to go.
Oh my goodness. It's all up. Okay, we were right about here. Sorry, everybody. Mag M said, I reopened my shop after a couple years of inactivity, started by renewing listings. Are renewed listings showing less than new ones? I have a 5-star rating. I think that we kind of already answered that. Yeah. But we do hear that question a lot. I've been inactive for a while. Should I just create a new shop? Or, maybe you've been like off for 2 years. Is it a good idea to create a new shop and start fresh? Or should they keep that, that sales number and kind of, just tweak their existing shop? That way they can, keep that little tag, been around since 2012 or something.
I don't know. I can only speculate on that one. I think I'd probably keep it, but I haven't seen anything from Etsy that encourages or discourages either way there. But I look at it and I think, you've got a bit of history there. As a buyer, if I was to go in and look at a shop and see 0 sales or maybe 1 sale, I'd be going, yeah, maybe I'll trust this other shop that's been around longer and, has got 100 sales.
Right. Yeah, I do that too. When I'm shopping, if I see a shop that just opened up and there are no, no buys or only a couple sales in that shop, I usually, I'll put it aside a while and wait and because people ultimately, going back to that psychology thing, people avoid anything that has a risk attached to it, and minimizing that risk in any way that you can is what is going to make someone make that purchase when they realize that there is no risk attached to it. That goes right along with having things like return policies and all of that. So any way that you can minimize a risk and showing that other people are buying the products, reviewing the products, that you've been there for a long time, it kind of shows buyers that someone else took that initial risk for you and you can trust based on the reviews that they've left. So I don't think it hurts at all. I hear that question a lot though. Chelsea Barden asked, how long should I test a keyword to make sure it's bringing in traffic? So like what's a time frame that someone should be testing a keyword before they change it?
I can harp in on this one a little bit too.
Yeah, wow. Good question. How patient are you? And what time of year is it? Because if you're testing sweaters in the middle of summertime, you may be wanting to test that for 3 or 4 months. Right. Yeah. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer there. If it's an evergreen product, I'd be saying you should see a result within maybe 14 days. Some people have been speculating that it takes Etsy 30 days to give your listing a quality score. So maybe you want to wait out the full 30 days and maybe a few more. But yeah, if you're getting into maybe several months, that's probably enough to say it's time to try a new word.
Right. And I usually, when I test a keyword that I think is really going to do well, I apply it to a few listings and I test it for, I usually test it for about 2 months, but also keeping in mind that I've been selling for 6 years. So 2 months isn't really a long time for me. And I don't do it to all of them. It's not like I go and change all my listings and then I wait for 2 months. I do just a couple at a time and watch them. So it really just depends on your patience, I think.
Right. And I think when it... just doing regular analysis here, like after the initial, say you have a product launch, after the initial launch, you let the lust of the new launch get out of the customer's mind, that kind of thing. And you have, say, 5 or 6 in your inventory. And say after that initial outburst of sales from your launch goes by and it takes you, I don't know, maybe it's been 2 months and things are calming down, and say it takes you, maybe every 10 days that product sells on average, and you change that listing and you don't see a difference, then maybe it didn't make a difference. If it's starting to sell every 5 or 6 days on average, then you've done something good with that listing. Or if it's selling 15 to 20 days, then you've done some damage. Just regular analysis.
Right.
Just time-based analysis.
And let's see. Domestic Platypus asked, oh, this is a good one. Assuming common connecting words of 2 and 3 letters like a, the, and of aren't really included factors in SEO, is there any advantage or disadvantage to including them in tags? So maybe I can't even think of a good, decent example of that. Like, I don't. Like throwing in the word like the, or not that you guys should be making or using Game of Thrones in your tags because HBO will come after you, but that would be like an example of, should you put just Game Thrones, or should you put like the full thing, Game of Thrones, even though of might not actually be looked at.
So I can tell you how search engines work in general. I can't tell you specifically about Etsy because I don't know. But the general practice that search engines go through is they will break down the words in the page and the words in the query into tokens, and words like of and the and a, they're considered stop words, and they're thrown in the trash. They're not considered anymore. Those words that are left over, they're the ones that they really put focus on. So from a Google and a Bing perspective, it's going to make no difference whether you have them in there or not. In your descriptions, you still want to make sure you've got well-formed, grammatically correct sentences, so make sure they're in there. But I think in your tags, at least from a Google perspective, you're safe. And if I'm not mistaken, Etsy does perform that way as well, but I'll need to run a couple of quick tests to confirm that.
And I doubt anybody's doing any in-depth, like specific Boolean searches for Etsy products. I don't think just like he said, I don't think they matter that much.
Yeah. And let's see. Lucky Stamper said, when doing a description, I use a friendly description to start, and even how you might wear the jewelry and with what. Then under that bullet point, bullet points for a specific description. Is this a good or a bad idea? So I think that she writes like a paragraph about how she might pair that piece of jewelry with, other outfits and the foo-foo description. And then she puts just bullet points with like the necklace length and the supplies used and things like that.
Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Can't think of a better way to do it. You get them enticed with a nice warm-up sentence, and then you get into the specifics, which is a very easy to read format with the bullet points. I think that's a great way to do it.
Right. And, that's going to help a lot too with people who there are tons of different learning styles, reading styles. A lot of people want to read a paragraph. A lot of people want to skim and just get to the basic points. They might be reading that long foo-foo description that you write, and the whole time just saying, okay, yada, 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 get on with it. They just want to know how long is this freaking necklace. They don't care about the foo-foo. So I think that you're appealing to 2 entirely different types of people when you do that. So yeah, I would say that also is definitely a great idea. Let's see. I was finding that I couldn't, okay, this is Joe Kerner. I was finding that I couldn't find my listings when searched, even with the comma and space afterward, but I had my keyword repeated in, so I went back and added a comma there too, and it came up. Yeah. So they're saying that they weren't finding things for a search result, and they added commas, and that helped. They were able to find themselves after doing that. So, I mean, if you tested it and it worked, that's your, maybe test it again. If don't change everything based on one test. Test things multiple times, because, things could just be coincidence. You make sure that you're actually testing multiple listings before you go and make a big, huge change to your shop that you might have to go back and spend hours changing back later. So yeah, that kind of goes along with what we talked about earlier. Let's see. Cindy, I think we kind of talked about this before, but Cindy Martin asked, I had a listing in the number 3 position on page 1 for almost a year. Then suddenly it dived to page 2. I changed nothing on the listing. Any ideas? That kind of goes along with the changes in the search algorithm. And, think about all the other people who are renewing their listings. If they're diligently renewing their listings, it might pop up above yours. So there's a million factors that could determine that. It's, if it's a bestseller and it's already doing well, you could try the renewal technique to see if it bumps you. But right now there's really no saying exactly what could have happened. Do you have any comments on that? Or
I probably wouldn't panic immediately if I can't see my listing on page 1, because again, Etsy are tailoring the results to what they think I'm going to buy, and I'm not going to buy my own shop item. So initially, at least, I wouldn't panic with that. But I would go in and check the stats and see if there's been some sort of correlation between the drop in page that you've seen and a drop in sales or a drop in views. Hopefully views are fairly consistent, in which case business as usual. If the views have dropped as well, then maybe you need to have a look at what else has changed. Is it that specific word? I mean, are you looking at the right search term that drives most of your traffic? So if you can get that from your keyword stats, make sure you're focusing on the right word. There are other factors as well. Etsy's got I don't know how many people have seen this, but they've got a article in the seller handbook about what to do when sales drop. And, they talk about all the other possible factors that are out there as well. Maybe something isn't as cool as it was 2 or 3 years ago. Maybe people have started discounting and things like that. So it's really hard to say whether it's something to panic about, but check your stats first. That'd be what I do.
Right.
And then we had a couple of questions between vintage and one of a kind.
Oh, yep.
David Wolf asked, most of my items are one of a kind. Do you have any advice for those of us who sell one of a kind items?
That's like a big topic. Yeah, everyone freaks out.
And then going on to that, Mag saying that, vintage sellers, are they at a disadvantage to people that are, crafted items? And I mean, I would have to say definitely as far as SEO comes, because
you don't have repeat sales.
Right, you don't have repeat sales on one particular listing. That listing isn't building history.
Yeah,
building sales and reviews and things like that. So I mean, that's going to be the same concept for one of a kind. You don't have a product that's going to sit there and build and consistently add on to itself.
Yeah, agreed. I think the playing field levels when you are deeper in the vintage category. Once you're in with other vintage listings, then I think the keywords will start to have more of a play here. But I don't know enough about vintage and one of a kind and how Etsy handles those to really give any great advice there. Sorry, guys.
Well, and that's fine. When you're making vintage, selling vintage products, selling one of a kind products, I think that for vintage, what you really need to keep in mind is that if somebody's searching for, vintage Pyrex dishes, they're going to be using those keywords. So just get your keywords as close to what you're actually selling with vintage. There should be, things like product codes, SKUs, and, just anything. Or what am I thinking of? What's the number, the product number on the sticker for original products. Do your research on that product that you're reselling. Try to find, the product number for that item, because serial number. Darn it. I knew
my brain just totally took it.
We were both serial number.
You asked me too quick.
Find the serial numbers for those products, because someone who is, we have a friend who is just crazy about collecting Pyrex, old vintage Pyrex, and she knows everything about Pyrex, and she scouts for Pyrex. So if there was a piece that she was looking for and you had that serial number in your listing, or
I do that with guitars. Like when somebody sells like an old school guitar and they're like, oh, I'm only selling it for $300. And it's like a $5,000 old school guitar. Like, can I have the serial so I can contact the manufacturer and ask if it's legit?
Right. So I think that those things help a lot, because then you're actually finding the people who are searching for your products. I don't think that one of a kind sellers, you're at kind of a disadvantage, but when it comes to SEO, but that just means that you need to work on your external marketing. Yeah. If you can't win with SEO, then bump up that external marketing, really be a public figure on social media, and position yourself as that artist that people want to follow and that people want to go, you know, visit their shop.
Well, that's why we say, like, with the course, like, there's a reason why one of a kind and vintage, we don't recommend you guys getting the course, because it's a whole different ball game. It's a whole different part of Etsy that you're fighting against different things, because you're not the only one of a kind seller that's at a disadvantage compared to us with SEO. They all are.
Right.
So you just have to fight in different ways.
And he's talking about the Handmade Alpha Academy, which is the course that you guys begged and pleaded me to start working on for you. So we have, and there aren't any details on when that will be available. It's going to be a while. We're still working on it, but that's what he's talking about. Because it's not going to be for one-of-a-kind sellers. I will be creating something later for one-of-a-kind sellers, but this course will not be it. So, all right. So it is 1:35. Do you have a cap, like a time limit cap that you'd like to, I mean, because honestly,
No, we're almost done.
Oh, I guess we are almost done.
Because we'll try to kill this by like maybe like 15 more minutes. We can try to get this done.
You want to try to finish in like the next 15 minutes and get the last of the questions finished up, or do you have that kind of time?
I think 15 minutes will be fine. I'm not hearing nothing from the other room, so.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll give it 15 minutes then, guys. And, you know, if you have any like last minute dire questions that you need to be answered, go ahead and post them. But other than that, we're going to try to finish what we have so far. So that way, because we've been here for quite a while. So Sandy Barndoor Design Studio asked, so let me understand, the grades on EtsyRank are based on keywords. I have so many low grades. Yeah.
Okay. How low? I mean, if it's a B, I wouldn't worry too much. If it's a C, probably you can get good sales with C's as well. If you've got an E, you're probably missing some tags. So that's a quick win and an easy opportunity for you to go and correct. So, you know, I'd probably need a little bit more detail. Is she responding?
Yeah.
Okay. But I'll just say, if you've got questions like that, feel free to shoot me an email, and I'll take a look at the odd listing here and there.
Yeah. All right. Let's see here. And then, well, Digital Mayor asked, and I actually have a video on this. I sell a lot daily, but my sales don't reflect the number of feedbacks I receive. Is there a way to even the numbers? For feedback, I have a video called The 4 Messages That You Should Be Sending Your Etsy Customers. And this video covers almost a warm-up period where you're actually messaging that customer right after they place that order to let them know when you're going to be shipping the product. You're creating that positive connection. You're sending them another message, letting them know when that product was shipped. That way they know to expect it, rather than just letting Etsy do the work by sending, you know, that automatic message that they send. And then when that product actually arrives to them, if you need that feedback, messaging them and just saying, hey, you know, I saw your order arrive, just wanted to pop in, make sure everything's okay, make sure that there was no damage or anything. You know, if you have time, leave me a review. If not, you know, no biggie. So that video, you can find it in my past videos. That's not really a SEO question though. So Joy Roberts does have a good question though. She asked, with tags, I assume she makes candles. Do I use rose candle, flower candle, scented candle, or just candle once as a tag? Is that keyword stuffing?
I love stuffing.
I don't believe Etsy are on record as saying this is our definition of keyword stuffing. So I can't say conclusively one way or the other. To me, it seems reasonable, but I'd be more concerned about, is it relevant to the listing? So if it's a rose candle, it's a rose candle. If it's rose colored or red, those variations might be fine as well. So I'm not hearing alarm bells, but just keep it relevant. Don't try and put too many candle variations in there just for the sake of it. Make sure it's relevant to the listing. Sorry, I'm sitting on the fence there a little bit, but I hope that helps a little.
Right. And then Sarah Bergman asked, should we always have occasion, theme, and holiday filled out? Does it limit our views anywhere by selecting specifics? there are not always the best selections. Wonder if choosing one versus leaving blank, for where Etsy kind of updated all that, where we have all those niche down things. And what I've heard is that it can only help, but it can't hurt. Have you heard anything similar?
I'm with you. I believe that it would only be beneficial. And to be honest, when people, I talked about that journey, that purchase making journey early on, when you're researching, when you're comparing, more often than not, what I've seen when I was the manager of Bing Shopping was when people started using filters, they were getting close to making a decision. So I would use them because you want to try and catch those people. They're
the serious buyers.
They're
serious buyers. Yeah.
Oh, they're getting ready to buy. So if it's appropriate, if it's relevant, put it in there.
Right. Okay. And then let's see. Teresa asked, I think that she means she went on vacation, but she asked, I took a 2-week break and put shop on vacation mode. Yeah. And I haven't been able to get back to my average visits. And I've seen a lot of clumping, as you explained earlier. There's a lot of people who ask about if vacation mode hurts you, or, because some people say that their just shop has bumped off the face of the earth when they went on, a short vacation. Do you have any insight on vacation mode or how that affects your ranking?
Well, I can only speak from when my wife's gone on vacation. She's noticed when she comes back that there is a little weird period where sales just aren't like what they used to be, but she's always bounced back every single time. And so you've just got to, suck it up for a few days, maybe a week. I don't know if Teresa is still messaging there, but that's what we've noticed. About a week, maybe 2 at the most, and then you should be getting back to normal. The only other thing to keep in mind is when you went on vacation. So if you went on vacation at the end of December and came back 3 or 4 weeks later, well, you've just left at the end of the prime shopping season, so you will naturally have a slowdown. So if that's happened to you, I probably wouldn't panic. That's normal seasonality. But just to reiterate, I normally see my wife's shop come back from vacation, back to normal sort of sales volume within about 2 weeks.
Right. And if anybody has any doubts about where they're ranking, things like that, if their rank has dropped, it never hurts to renew those listings just to try to see if it helps you, to remind Etsy, like, I'm back, I'm here, everything's renewed, everything's ready to go. But I don't think that there's any significant evidence that, will actually say that your shop is going to fall off the face of the earth. I think it's just all about the work that you put in after you get back, rather than just opening the shop back up and sitting there, keeping up with marketing and things like that.
You actually reminded me of something that I've observed. I don't have a lot of data on this, but when I mentioned earlier about the testings that I did with the renewing way back, and I would see this short spike where people are jumped up to page 1. Keep in mind, if you're renewing, you may want to experiment with renewing listings around about the time when people are at their computer. So if you're in a panic at 1 a.m. on the West Coast and going, oh, geez, I've got to renew everything, probably not a good time to do it, Wait till, the next day and try and catch people on the East Coast as well, try and, it looks like it's a short-lived benefit, so try and pick your time wisely, during lunch breaks when people are on their computer, after dinner, something like that, but not too late in the evening when everyone's gone to bed or should be in bed.
Right. And there's tons of like infographics and things like that you can just do a quick Google search to see what times in certain areas that people are online. And if they're on their phone, if they're on a desktop, there are tons of, different websites that can provide you with that information based on where you're selling at. Now, I'm actually not sure what this acronym stands for. So you might school us if you know what RTJ is asking. We use USPTO quite a bit. Are there any plans to make USPTO search from within EtsyRank Pro with the term being looked for versus leaving the page to type in the term?
The trademark lookup tool.
Okay.
I looked into that a while ago. I didn't see a API that looks friendly. I don't recall seeing any API at all, but I'm not sure I would do that. I mean, if we suddenly get a whole load of comments saying, yes, do it, I can certainly investigate that. I think it'd be neat. But at this stage, just linking off there is all I plan to do.
Okay. Let's see. And then, let's see. Roya asked me if I can keep the chat with the video, because Renee Christine had done that in a few of her videos somehow. That's actually not a YouTube feature, Roya. So I'm not quite sure how Renee would have done that, but I can't keep the chat, for re-uploads of Q&As, but I can ask Renee about that. Definitely. If there's something that I've missed. Let's see. Cheyenne, is it Cheyenne? Cheyenne Garcia asked, hi guys, I'm wondering if you're going to bring back shop critiques on EtsyRank. It helped me as a new seller having a guideline. Shop critique on EtsyRank?
Yeah, well, I removed, sorry.
You ruined her life.
I'm sorry. I actually removed that about 2 months ago. There weren't many people going in there. But look, you know, if I must say, I honestly thought that people weren't getting much value out of it, so I took it down. So I apologize. I'll bring it back. Yeah, I think if it's missed, then for sure.
Okay, perfect.
Make a note of that.
This next one will probably be our last question, then we'll just get into final comments.
Yeah.
Yep.
Go ahead and...
Okay. And then let's see. Deb asked, can you comment on the use of LSI, latent semantic indexing, word usage, and trying them to our main keyword, or maybe using a long tail keyword string?
I think I know that, Deb. Is her last name beginning with F?
Yes. she's in your group.
Hi, Deb. What? Can you repeat that question?
Yeah, that was a mouthful.
Using latent semantic indexing word usage.
Yep.
And tying them to our main keyword, or maybe using in a long tail keyword string.
We're all just sitting here like,
this is one of those questions that we needed before the stream so we could like remember things.
What are you doing to me, please?
Do we need a dictionary?
And Deb, I think you actually prepped me for this one, so I should know it a little bit better. You've really caught me off guard. Sorry, my head's fried.
How about let's see. Well,
yeah, that's more of a private message question anyway, because most of the other people in here aren't going to understand any of what that means regardless.
Deb, why don't you go ahead and post that in the EtsyRank group, because I know you're in there, and maybe give us a dictionary definition of that acronym to make sure that we get that right. We'll go ahead and answer. Oh, go ahead.
She's pretty awesome. She's one of the top contributors to the group, and I'm so embarrassed now. But unless I'm mistaken, she's got her hands on a very interesting Google course on AI and LSI. So, and apparently it's for all levels as well. So I'm going to be checking that out. It sounds like Deb's already benefited from that greatly.
Awesome. I believe Deb is the reason that I actually messaged you for the first time. She's the one who told me to message you. She said, will do. Okay. So since we couldn't get her question, I do have, I'm going to go ahead and do this one. We'll go ahead and do this one since we couldn't answer Deb's,
sure.
Because I think it's a good question and it's been repeated a couple of times. What are the 3 most overlooked features in EtsyRank Pro that we should be maximizing its use? So what are like 3 like top EtsyRank Pro features for anybody who's thinking about joining EtsyRank Pro, which if you want to talk about the price point of that, like it is an amazing tool that you don't have to pay a whole lot for.
Okay, well, that's a great question. Thank you for asking. So I think the top feature for me is the competition section. There is a sales report in there. And this is something that my wife had used for a long time, just to understand how she was going and benchmarking her shop with her competitors. So, you know, she'd have a good run, maybe 5 or 6 items were sold for, you know, every day for 4 or 5 days in a row, and then it would drop down to 1, and she'd panic and be like, oh my God, what's going on? And that's what this feature does. It allows you to pick up to 20 of your peers or competitor shops, and you can then each day see how many sales they've had. Once you've added them in there, give it about 24 hours, and then it will update real time for you. So you can go in there and see at 9 a.m., you know, am I having a crappy day or am I doing really well? You know, and I love this feature. I get a lot of great feedback from it because people go, thank God it's not just me that's having a bad day, or I'm having a great day and everyone else, they're tanking. So, you know, I'm king of the world for a day. It is a great benchmarking feature, and it really helps, I think, avoiding panic. You know, if you think that your sales are tanking because it's, you know, the 30th of December, and you start doing crazy things with your listings, you're up at 3 a.m. tweaking all your tags, renewing, and doing every trick you've got at your disposal. You may not need to, and that's why this feature I released it out for everyone in the pro group to have access to, so that they can go in there, have a look at it, see what the competitors are doing, and go, oh, it's all right today. I don't need to panic. That's the key thing there. The other benefit is if you see one of your peers doing really well, you can go and do a little bit of spying. You can go and check out their shop on Etsy and go, what are they selling lately? What have they renewed lately? Are there new products that I should be considering adding to my line of products and things like that? So that's probably the one that I really like the most, and get the most positive feedback about.
Yeah, and I love that tool too, because I mean, you know, when he said you can see what your competitors are doing, a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to copy my competitors, but you're not necessarily copying, you're just taking what they're doing and making it like a gazillion times better. And I believe that I believe it was Picasso who said, and I've used this quote a million times and I still haven't fact checked it, but I believe it was Picasso who said, good artists copy, great artists steal. And it's not necessarily that you're stealing exactly what they're doing. You're stealing their idea and you're making it a gazillion times better to climb the marketplace. So I think that is a great tool that you guys should be using, you know, on a weekly basis, especially if you don't know why today you're doing great or, you know, why tomorrow you're doing terrible. It's going to show you if everyone's doing terrible within your industry. So, and then are there 2 more tools that you want to add to that list?
So the keyword tool, I love this because you've got so much extra information now in there. You've got data sources from Etsy, from Google, and from Bing. So you're getting diversified opinions on search volume and popularity and trends in there now. So just the other day, I launched the long tail graph in there, which will tell you whether you've got whether you've found a keyword that sits in the long tail and where it sits in the long tail. I love long tail words because I feel that there is a higher chance that a long tail word is that sort of search term that people are entering when they're about to buy. But there are also bad long tail keywords as well. Some of these ones that never get searched or get searched 10 times a year, you're not going to get rich on those sort of keywords. So it'll give you an idea, some sort of perspective around that. And you can look at the graph there and get a sense of whether you've picked a good word or not. If you like, I can share my screen. Actually, it's probably a good idea.
With the dinosaur?
He's not on this one, but...
oh, no! I love the dinosaur.
He's cute, isn't he? Let me do this. I feel like I'm doing a sales pitch, and I'm not a good sales guy, so bear with me.
No, you're totally fine. I think everybody is more than eager to see everything. So
I'll give you a peek into it. So this is the long tail graph that I'm talking about. So I just did a search for gift for mum. It's 3 words. You'd probably say it's a long tail keyword generally, but it's, you know, if we're talking about the dinosaur, we're probably right around the shoulder right here. So it gets a fair amount of searching that goes on. We also have the search trend, and this is coming from Bing, and it gives you an idea of how often it is being searched by people out in the wild. And, you know, Bing, I don't know that many of you use Bing as a search engine, but the people that do, they have the same searching habits as people on Google and on Etsy. So if you see something that's doing well here, it should also apply to Etsy and Google. And you can use these keywords and this data to do things beyond just Etsy as well. So if you've got a blog or you've got a Shopify site, you can do your keyword research here and then go and apply it to those pages as well. But my point here is you've got a trend. You can see when it's peaking around here. So what do you know? Gift for Mum in May peaked last year. I'm guessing that's Mother's Day, and you've probably got another peak around December. So you can sort of see when search terms are hot and when they're not. The other thing that I like to show people is you get full analysis of the tags or related tags that are found in the listings that we analyze. So you can see a whole bunch of tags, and we give it a grading on competition. So if you decide to avoid competition, you may want to select something that's maybe more of a medium level of competition. And same with demand. Demand is really how much buyer demand is out there. Again, we base this on Bing. We've done a lot of statistical analysis work, and we try and figure out where those words reside. So, you want to try and get something that's got a little bit of demand in there. When it gets very low, you probably have a word that could be a little weak, not necessarily bad. It could still have good words that matched with other words in your tags could turn into a great success. But, it's a little warning. There's also engagement, which tells you, how likely people are to engage with those keywords. And we've also got this little long tail indicator now as well. So I can say, okay, well, show me all the Gift Mum related tags that are also long tail keywords. So these are the sort of tools that, I'm thrilled to give the Pro members access to really help them figure out, what's the right keyword for me. I'm down to one tag left. Which one should I choose? Should it be this one or that one? You can go into the tool and figure out what has the higher probability of attracting users and buyers.
And this Pro membership that we keep talking about, it's like $600 a month, right?
It's just gone up, actually. $9.99 a month.
$9.99.
Yep, I've tried to keep it as cheap as possible for people. I know that a lot of you out there, really struggle. I've had so many people tell me, about the tough circumstances that they've had to endure and how they've had to turn to Etsy to make a few extra bucks. And, to be honest, I feel for everyone that struggles. So, it took me a long time to actually introduce a paid product, and I've tried to price it as fairly as possible for everyone.
Yeah, guys. And this, honestly, this is one of those tools that I think that everyone should have. It's only $10 a month, and you're going to find yourself using it all the time. Anytime you have that question of why is my shop not doing so great today, you can just go and find out why. It's basically all of the answers that you guys constantly ask in our Facebook community, in our Q&As. You have a resource now, and EtsyRank.com is linked down in the description. That Pro membership, $10 a month. It's totally worth it. You guys, I'm not an affiliate. Like, first of all, I want to throw that out
for the sake of transparency. Like, we're not affiliated.
Right. We're not.
Anthony's not throwing us thousands that you guys are giving him.
Right. We genuinely love the tool, and that's why we keep making videos about it over and over again. So,
I had one more feature if you wanted me to.
Yes, one more.
We're not out of time. Okay.
Switch back. No, you're fine.
I am going to head upstairs, though. I got to go because our kid's going to
Oh, yeah. He's got to run and grab the kiddo off the bus, but we have time.
So there's another one in here. Again, this is for Pro. This is really to help you research. And, like I was saying, if you see a shop that is doing particularly well and you think, what can I learn from them? There's a competitor tag analysis tool. So you can get in there and see what they use. Starla, do you mind if I show your shop?
Oh, no, go ahead.
Have I got the name right there?
It should, yes, Art by Starla Moore.
Yep, okay. So I'll just do some analysis on that. And, it's what it does is it looks at the shop that you're interested in and says, okay, give me a breakdown of the tags that they're using. So, Starla here, I like Starla's tagging strategy, actually, because she's chasing some very high competition tags, and I'm a fan of those because sellers tend to figure out what's working and what's not. So I think that's smart there, and that probably is a reflection of your success there. So you've got good, healthy competition there. You're not afraid of being competitive.
Right, but keeping in mind for the new sellers out there that it's easier when you have that have quite a few sales under your belt. I wouldn't aim for those high competition keywords like early on, like first day on Etsy.
Completely agree. That's a great point. And you can also look at demand and so forth as well. And you've got some really good healthy demand here, which again tells me that buyers are interested in the tags that you've used. So that's a great thing as well. And then further down, we've got more information here about the tag, so you can see individually each tag in more detail that you've used. We only analyze 100 listings from the shop, but I think that's enough to get a good idea of what's going on. And with a lot of the other reports on Etsy as well, EtsyRank, you can also download these into Excel or a PDF and play with them more and analyze them, in your spreadsheets. So they're the three things that I'd really call out there.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, a lot of people, I've been avoiding this question over and over again. It keeps being asked in the group. Sorry, Mark just disappeared, but everyone keeps asking, and I've been avoiding it. How is this different than Marmalade? And honestly, guys, that's up for you to decide. I personally have noticed an overwhelming number of alphas, and you guys can post down in the chat. For those who are asking that question, why don't you guys answer it? What are the things that sets EtsyRank apart from Marmalade? I can't speak for Marmalade because I don't have a Marmalade membership, but I will tell you that a majority of Handmade Alphas who have used both tell me that they prefer EtsyRank, and that's why this is the tool that I promote. I listen to what you guys are saying, so that's all up to you to decide. And I know that you have a lot more tools than Marmalade does. I think that you have a lot of unique tools that are very different. So
and I don't use their software, obviously.
Right.
I'm not going to say anything bad about the guys because I think
no.
it's a good job. But the key difference that has been made clear to me over and over again is the vast amount of free features and tools that are there. And I'm very much determined to keep that going as long as possible. And I'm always very willing to listen to ideas and suggestions as well. If you've got a problem, at the end of the day, I'm a developer. I like to solve problems. So, let me know.
Perfect. All right, guys, this has been super duper fun. This is like our first guest star. So down below, we have links to etsyrank.com. If you don't have that pro membership yet, I highly recommend you go get that ASAP. Go start playing with those tools, test some things. Also down below, we have the link to Renee, Christine, and I are doing a big masterclass on March 10th. If you want to save your seat for that, get in on it as soon as possible because I'm not sure if she'll be putting a cap on it, but you want to save your seat just in case. That's linked down below. And we finally got our P.O. box set up. So if you want to send us fan mail, there are some guidelines down there. Our P.O. box is down there. You can send us your handmade products. Just make sure that you leave us a note in the box with your shop name or your business card so we can give you a proper shout out on the channel. Other than that, do you have any final words, any last farewells to the alphas? I don't want this to be the last time that we have you live, so I don't want it to seem like we're saying final goodbyes, but do you have anything that you want to leave everyone off with?
Just go in there, use the site. It's free to use for everyone. You're welcome to go and play around. Give me feedback. Every bit of feedback that comes through, I read. I try to respond to everyone that I can. I know I've got a few notes here to follow up with a few people and a few ideas there. So please try it out. And it was great to chat. And Deb, I'll figure out how to answer your question later on.
Awesome. And what's your Facebook group? That way they can join that and chat with you more with their ideas and things.
EtsyRank, facebook.com/groups/EtsyRank.
Perfect. All right.
In the chat.
It might actually block you from posting links in the chat. The chat doesn't like links, but if you hop on Facebook and you just type in EtsyRank, you'll see both his Facebook page and his Facebook group that you can join. And he's pretty quick about responding to people who join his group because I think I just now joined this week. I think I just now joined the group. Yeah, and you approved me like immediately. All right, guys, this has been super fun. Thanks for hanging out, Anthony. Thanks for everybody who joined us for this grueling, 2.5 hours. I think that everyone really took some great notes. Everyone seems really happy. So hopefully we can have you on again sometime. Yay!
I'd love to. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Awesome. Thanks.
Thanks, Stella.
Bye.